Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I want to talk about the brothers in our community that are complaining and expressing their feelings about sisters in our community where they're paying child support or they're falling into divorce and a lot of problems and they're complaining. So I noticed on YouTube and the algorithms across social media that uh, many videos are popular that do not really talk about the topics that are popular and detailed. So, one of the algorithms or videos that are very popular across social media right now is about men complaining about child support and how child support is very oppressive against men. And within that spectrum, that we have Muslims in our community, especially the African American Muslim brothers and sisters in our community, where a lot of men are talking about how women are, the Muslim sisters are abusing the court system related to child support, getting finances that's beyond what Islam say is permissible for her to have, or her going to the courts and using the court system to oppress the children's father. So I want to make in this particular video, which a lot of the videos that brothers are talking about this topic, whether it's an imam talking about this topic, whether it's a Muslim personality on social media, whether it's a caller of Islam, whatever and so forth. A lot of the brothers who are talking about these topics are not speaking this. They're not saying the truth about this matter, which is in a lot of the cases for the brothers in this child support case or the sisters using the court system to fight their fathers in the Muslim community. The reality is it's our fault. It's the men's fault. It's the brothers' fault. Right? And a lot of imams are not talking about that. Why it's the brothers' fault. And and I'm speaking from also from personal my personal experience, and I could say it's our fault, right? Divorce, our fault. Women using the court system, it's our fault, and this is going to show why it's our fault when you start studying Islam in detail, which unfortunately in the African American Muslim community, many of us are not really deep into Islamic knowledge, or we only stick to one particular subject and ignore other subjects that are also important, or we indulge in subjects like family issues in Islam, al-usra, or the fiqh related to family, but we don't talk about all the issues related to family subject in Islam. So, and the truth is we don't pick the right woman, and because us as Muslim men, we do not pick the right woman in Islam, we reap what we sowed because of our bad decisions and picking spouses is the reason why we have divorce. Because we do not pick the correct spouse, it is the reason why we in family court. Because we don't choose the correct spouse is the reason why we in divorce court. Because we don't choose the correct spouse, it is the reason why our children are suffering. So a lot of the fault related to these issues related to divorce, women abusing the court system, especially when it comes to child support, is because we as men did not pick the correct spouse. And I'm going to talk about Islamic fiqh because I hear a lot of the imams and du'at on social media talking about this particular issue, but they're not talking about how a lot of the brothers, we do not pick correct spouses in Islam. We don't choose the right spouse. In Islam, we talk about fiqh, in the fiqh of children and tarbiyah al-atfal, and educating Muslim children or educating children in Islam. The first topic or the first subject that we indulge in is choosing the correct spouse. That's part of tarbiyat al-Islam. Tarbiyat atfal yani. That is part of cultivating children. First is the picking the correct spouse to have children with. This is for the men and this is for the women. And if we study fiqh like we're supposed to, especially when you come to the bab of a nikah, the bab of a marriage in Islam, or the chapter of marriage in Islam, it talks about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He speaks about what type of men should marry and which type of men shouldn't marry. For example, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, for the man who doesn't have the means to get married, that he should fast, right? So that means that the man has to be able to provide for the woman food, clothing, and shelter. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Rijalun qawwanun ala nisa bima fadu Allah. Ila akhir hadhihi ayat, until the end of this verse. Allah said He gave men in a higher position than the women, meaning physical strength above the women. So men are the maintainers of women, right? So then we go to another narration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he talks about the man married the woman for multiple reasons, either for her beauty, her status, or her religion, right? And it said, choose the woman who is pious. Then there's other narrations where the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, marry the woman that is fruitful, lovely hearted, and can have many children. There's other narration when one of the companions of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was looking for a wife, and the Prophet told them to marry a virgin wife, to a virgin. And then the companion married a woman who was thayyib, a woman who was previously married, meaning she was a virgin. And the Prophet went to him or seen him, and he said, he married this woman because he has sisters and he needs somebody to take care of them. So he married a woman who was previous married so she can help him take care of his sisters. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made dua for him and asked Allah to give him a smart child. Smart child. Kama qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This shows for the Muslim man or the Muslim woman who reads these things, who learn about these things, that is very important on child raising and the type of person you choose to marry. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also showed the importance of breastfeeding children. Breastfeeding children, where we understand in fiqh, in kitab al-nikah, about the breast milk or the woman who webs the child, right? We know it's for 2 years, 2 Islamic years. Breastfeeding. Breastfeeding children is very important. It's one of the children's right in Islam to be breastfed. Breastfed. It's the child right in Islam to be breastfed. And it goes for 2 years. And it goes to the extent in fiqh that it even shows that the women who breastfeed the child for multiple times, that is not his mother, that makes that child related to that person by web nurse, right? So we see the importance of breastfeeding, and also how it connects a person to being related to the person who breastfed him. And it's not permissible to marry other people who've been breastfed from her, from the same web nurse, a number of times, 5 sittings. Most scholars say 5 sittings. And the other opinions is 1 sitting or 2 or 3 sittings. But it is known as 5 sittings. So it shows the importance of breastfeeding the child, right? So let's talk about now Islamic marriages and brothers who are divorced. Brothers who are divorced, brothers who are complaining about the women, brothers who are complaining about family court, brothers who are complaining about child support and the women abusing the system. Let's be honest, brothers. Let's be honest. Did we choose the right mother for our child? Did we choose the woman who was very lovely hearted? Did we choose the woman based on her looks? and not based on her deen? Did we choose a woman based on her looks and her figure and not based on her deen? If you married a sister, for example, and when before you married her, the sister wore fake nails, the sister had nail polish on, but she had a beautiful figure. Did we know that Allah doesn't accept the salat of the person who wudu is not intact or correct? Making wudu and the woman have nail polish, is her wudu intact? That means that her salat is not intact. And if you brought this to her attention, the importance of not having nail polish on and making wudu and the wudu not being correct, then if you would have seen that the sister didn't care about these issues, it was not important, that means that salat and her ibadah and her deen to her was not important, but you still married her. So you guys, you be at fault. If your wife was a career chasing woman and can't breastfeed your child because she has a career to chase, 2 years, 2 years, this is the child's haq. If you chose the woman who had the career and did not choose the woman who wanted to stay home and raise her children, and you end up in divorce, then it's your fault. You did not choose the correct wife. And some people will sit and say in many talks and many sittings about when getting married, don't be picky. But the reality is that when you go to look to get married, you need to be picky, because the things that, if you don't be picky, and the things that you disliked about the woman before you got married and you marry her anyway, these are the most likely going to be the reasons why you divorce. So we have to be very honest with ourselves. Did we choose the correct spouse? In many cases, many brothers, we don't choose the correct spouse. The sister was lazy. The sister didn't know nothing about the religion. You married her anyway based on her looks, and she was ignorant about the religion. And you knew this, she was ignorant about the religion, but you married her anyway. Then you wonder why you're divorced and she's going to family court and she's getting child support from you when you have the means to pay, but she wants more and she wants to go to the system. You knew that before you married this woman, that she was not a person who didn't have deen. And you didn't marry her because of deen. You married her in most cases based on look. You knew the sister couldn't cook, but you married her anyway knowing that she couldn't cook. She had no skills for providing. I mean, she had no skills that will help raise a child. She had no skills, no cooking skills. She knew nothing about Islam. And we understand that the first teacher for the child is the mother. So if the mother's ignorant about the deen and you are at work majority of the time of the day, what is the child learning? We are at fault. Us men, we are at fault due to us loving these type of women who are not religious and not pious. And then we marry people based on the wrong reasons, not based on kitab and sunnah. Not based on kitab and sunnah. And that's why I gave you the examples of before. The companion who married the woman, the Prophet ﷺ told him to marry the woman who was a virgin. He married the woman who was thayyib because he had he had sisters. And he needs somebody to help with his sister. So he married a woman who was familiarized with marriage and marriage responsibilities. See, we don't take the wisdom of these things. We don't take heed to the hadith. The Prophet said, man, marry a woman for multiple reasons. Either her beauty, her status, her lineage. He said, marry the woman who fear Allah, who is pious, because her status can make her rebel against the deen, can make her arrogant. Her beauty can make her be full of pride. Her lineage can make her pride and boastful. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, marry the woman based on her piety, her deen. So if you marry a woman based on her looks, and you're in family court and she's going around and she wants more than this from child support and she don't care and she don't fear Allah, it's our fault as men. Even myself, I'm in a situation right now, right? Been divorced for a couple of years now. I'm in a situation, and the women who I marry have kids with, kids know Quran. And I tell the mother all the time, I said, listen, man, these kids live with you. You are a graduate from Islamic University in Egypt. And you went through there all your childhood and your adult life as adult and educational, all through Ashar University. I said, you can't teach none of your children Quran. I said, how are you an Arabic speaker, native Arabic speaker, was taught this all your life, and you can't teach it to your children, not even the Quran? And I said to her, you know who fault is this? I said, it's not your fault. It's my fault. Because I knew you was lazy before I married you. I married you anyway. I said to her, this is my fault. So sometimes we have to realize that we are the ones who make bad decisions as men. We marry these bad women. We see all the faults, but we look at the beauty instead, or the figure instead. Or we're naive. Because even in my situation, when I was overseas, people from the country told me, who's actually from that country, don't do it. You don't know the women like we know the women. Don't do it. All right. And I spend my time in Egypt. And all the Egyptian people used to tell me, men, don't do it. Don't marry Egyptian women. Likewise, brothers in America. Likewise, in the African American Muslim community. We see the sister, she has no deen. We marry her anyway. No deen. We see the sister have multiple children by different fathers. None of the men take care of the children. And we marry the sister anyway. And because you're the nice guy and you're the decent guy, you get divorced, you be the one paying child support. While the other fathers who are bums, Pookie and Ray Ray, don't pay child support, you have to pay a lot of child support because you was the nice guy who had the job, decide to marry this sister who don't know how to make good decisions and keep on putting herself in bad situations and making bad decisions. You turn around to marry her. We make bad decisions. You can't have mercy. You can't have a lot of love for these sisters. I'm sorry. In these bad situations, a lot of times we have to admit that a lot of these women put themselves in these situations they are in due to their own wrong understandings and misconcepts of the religion and outward disobedient to Allah. Father's not the wali, don't marry her. I'm just being very blunt. The father's the wali, he's not in her life. That's a flag. That's a flag. It's a red flag right there. Her father, family men, the men in her family are Muslim, but they're not her wali. That's the red flag. Most likely, the father of them are Muslim, and they're not her wali because she don't listen to her father. And so she's not going to listen to her father. What make you think she's going to listen to you? Red flags. It's just a sister chasing her career, chasing a career. That's a red flag because what time she's going to have to devote to her children and her family. And then I'm not talking about somebody who's a doctor, somebody who's like a lawyer, and that's Mad Fracky, a lawyer, yeah. But somebody's like a doctor, she's a doctor, I give her some excuse because we need doctors, female Muslim doctors in our community, right? So a female doctor should be more enlightened about raising children because it's part of her trade and her skill. So, how would a doctor, somebody wouldn't mind marrying. But at the same time, if a woman's chasing her career, what time she has to raising her children? What time she has raising her children? I remember a few years ago, I met a sister, a couple, a Latina school teacher in a Muslim school. And she was telling us that next year she's not going to work for the school anymore We was asking why. She says because she's gonna start homeschooling her children because she's finding that the Islamic school is neglectful in certain things. So she says she's gonna start homeschooling her children while their father work. And she's a teacher by trade. That's a person who, when he married his sister, he married the right sister. She said, I'm going to stay home because my husband makes enough money and I'm going to homeschool my children. And she was a teacher in an Islamic school. You know how many other companions I have like this or other associates I have like this, where their wife have their master's degree in education and they stay home and they homeschool their children. They don't even want to send them to the Islamic schools here in New York. And I'm talking about New York right here. Because Islamic schools in New York is a joke. Most of them. When it comes to academics and the Islamic knowledge. I know another brother, wife, master's degree. And she stay home and homeschool all her children while he works. Ideal Muslima. Ideal Muslima. And she's not competing with her husband. And then some of these sisters are smart enough, Ideal Muslima, they're smart enough that they even start their own type of business related to homeschooling to assist other sisters so they can homeschool their children. And these two scenarios of these sisters I just mentioned, none of them are African American, unfortunately. Unfortunately, none of them. Latinas, actually Latinas. All of them were actually Latina or mixed Latina and something else. We choose the wrong type of women to marry. And because we choose the wrong woman to marry, the results is divorce. The results is dysfunctional children. See, because we following our hawa when it comes to looking for a spouse based on woman's figure and looks, we are selfish. And we don't think about what's going to be the results of this, marrying a person based on my hawa, how this is going to affect our children. One family household, not being married, not having a stable income. I was listening to what is the common issue when people divorce and they have to go through the legal system to get visitations and they hate each other, the parents, then they have to meet up in safe spots. This is at police precincts. The precincts, meaning police stations for those who are not from the US. Police stations, you have to meet up to drop off the kids to meet each other. Imagine that's how this is going to impact your child. That he always got to go and deal with the police. Go to a police station for drop-offs. No one want to sit down and really sit and think about this, right? If you live in the inner city, police ain't black people's friends. Police are not black people friends. Imagine you have to meet up at the police precinct. What type of impact that's going to be for that black child? And knowing how corrupt police are, you don't think there's no corrupt cops who look at that and see that child grow up in that neighborhood or that area, and he knows that that's a dysfunctional family there, and know most likely be easy to arrest that child when he grows up because that's people that you could target in the community to give them tickets. You could target them to we need to make a certain amount of arrests because you know they have a dysfunctional household, not two parents in the house. No one really sit down and you guys really don't sit down and think about these things. That you have to go to the disbelievers. When you two have a fallout as Muslims, you got to go to the disbelievers to resolve your issues. And you have to bring in the police or the legal system that is secular, who have no belief in God. And unfortunately, this same legal system has something against black people. You have to resolve to them, these disbelievers who are also anti black, to resolve your problems. Then you're wondering why the woman wants a lot of money from child support and the court's going to give it to her. We have to make better decisions on the woman we decide to marry. You know, everyone's talking about the passport bros. Oh man, this is another big thing on social media. I don't care too much about social media topics, but people don't talk about the passport bro. Man, I've been part of that community since early 2000. You know how many brothers I met who married from overseas and brought the women here and are divorced as soon as the woman get her papers or green card or American citizenship? For those people talking about the passport bros, I'm telling you guys right now, if you marry a woman from overseas and you don't got your money right, you're not rich, man, keep them women in their country. Don't bring them over here. Keep them in their country. Go travel back and forth and build something in those countries and have a preference for Muslim countries. So at least your kids will grow up and learn about Islam, have an Islamic identity. You don't have to worry about the LBGQTI agenda. You don't have to worry about putting your kids in an Islamic school and they're not getting no academics, not really learning deen. You just paying for your kids to get babysit in the Islamic environment in their building or in the classroom. That's all you're paying for in the Islamic school. I'm just going to be blunt and real. You're just paying for your kids to be in an Islamic environment with all Muslims. Doesn't mean they're going to be getting academics or learn a lot about Islam. Doesn't mean that. So even about the passport bros, yeah, in America, I know a lot of passport bros, man, who divorced as soon as they get the women over here. Women start acting up because they hook up with these other corrupt sisters that I mentioned in this video. They hook up with them in the communities because the reason why we're going overseas to get married, because the women here are all corrupt. Then you bring your woman back in the same environment. What do you think is going to happen to the sister? All that piety, all that deen is going to go out the door. Women are weak. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the women are deficient in her deen. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there's no hijrah to Dar Kufr. Why there's no hijrah for the Muslim in the Muslim land to Dar Kufr? Because the society is going to impact that Muslim because mankind is weak. Then you bring the woman to this environment and then you wonder why certain things happen because she's mixing with the women. Unless you're somebody who is rich and can isolate those things. But most brothers are not rich. I said my piece. I hope some brothers take heed to this. When we hear about divorce and all of this, a lot of the instance, it's us, it's the brother's fault because we choose the wrong women.